like religion-wise, is there stuff that there is like in religion that you don't agree with like 100%, and then there's stuff that you do agree with? Like, are you kind of like in the middle? Like, how do you, I guess, how do you consider yourself? Because like me, I'm Catholic and stuff, but it's like there's stuff that you still like. I mean, I'm a curious person. I consider myself a curious person, so I always like to ask questions. But a lot of people sometimes within the churches and stuff or the religions, you ask something and now you're like, it's like you're frowning upon them. They don't like it. So
it's our motto here on the podcast, an active rebellion is question.
It's like if I can't question everything, I think, you know.
Yeah, I completely understand coming from a Catholic family. Although I will say Irish Catholicism is a little bit more lenient. I don't know if you know much about it. But yeah, it's definitely a lot more lenient. And so I think that for myself, you know, when looking at each religion, and especially Catholicism, I find Catholicism to be very strict. It's very much based on a system of like guilt and, repenting. And I think that, you know, to an extent, it's important to have, you know, guilt if you're doing bad things and to repent. But I noticed for a lot of Catholic people, and my family included, it's kind of like, you know, you do a bad thing and then it's just like you do your Hail Marys or you do your confession, then you're good. Whereas I think, you know, you need to have more of that aligned lifestyle change and action. And, you know, I think that there's things in every religious text that I don't agree with. You know, like there's some definitely interesting parts of the Bible that, you know, there's some more extreme beliefs in there. But I think that for a lot of people, they don't look at, you know, the whole aspects of a religion. They just kind of look at what they were raised with, you know, the church that they go to, what they say, things like that.
I feel like it's like I don't know if problem's the right word, but it's like people just grow up in that environment, so they're just like, oh yeah, sure, whatever, and they never think twice about it, instead of actually like, so now I'm thinking like, oh, does this actually make sense to me, or have I just been going along with it just to not cause any trouble or anything?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that what it comes down to is a lot of religions are trying to, you know, spread their word to help people, and unfortunately, I'll say this especially, you know, coming from a Catholic family, there was a lot of emphasis on that fear and that guilt, and so it felt very controlling to me. And I do think that there's definitely been times where religion has been used throughout history to control people and to instill fear, and I think that's when I really have an issue with it. It should be a place of community and connection and love and hope and faith, and to give people a greater, you know, connection to themselves and to whatever higher power they believe in.
I've heard that some people view it as like, I don't know if like view it, but they find it necessary to feel like that fear, because it's like if you don't have like a fear towards something, then you're just gonna keep doing whatever you're like doing in life. But then as soon as like there's a higher power and you like fear it, then it's gonna kind of like, I don't want to say control, but it's gonna kind of like you're gonna hold back more on doing just random bad things out in the world.
Yeah, it gives you like guardrails. Yeah, and I agree for some people it's like that, but I would say that for a lot of those people, they don't have that self-inspection, you know, of like, hey, I shouldn't do this just because the Bible or God tells me not to. I shouldn't do this because it's just not a good thing to do, you know? I do think that religion can be very helpful, and I think that especially, you know, if you're looking back throughout history, it was an essential part of humanity and society and culture, and I think that we would have, you know, definitely dealt with a lot more hardship without it. So I think that from my perspective, especially the issue I have with the Catholic Church is it's just that system of that guilt and that fear is really heavily embedded in Catholicism. There's a lot of undertones of it, and that's just the part that I really didn't like. Like, I didn't like feeling guilty for no reason. You know, I didn't like feeling like, you know, I had to do all these like rules and things. And yeah.
But I think too, like, to be completely honest, I don't think like the Catholic one is the only one that's bad. If we're going like that stuff, if we actually you start going,
I want to say bad, just strict.
Oh, there's some that are even like way worse, I think.
That are far more extreme.
Yeah, that go way.
I completely agree with you. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that's just the one that we're kind of like raised, so that's the one we're talking about. But like, I think there's some other ones that are just like way worse. And I have a theory, so for people, don't get all offended and stuff. But I feel like the people that are really close, like you're saying, like, oh, I did this, but I'm just gonna do a couple, pray a little bit and then I'm good. Like I forget. Like, no, I think that's the problem. I think
agree.
they're the people that are closest to the church are the ones that are just like, okay, yeah, but in reality, they're shitty people. I think there's a lot of shitty people, and they just think just because they're gonna pray for like 10 minutes, it's pretty much like a clean slate, and now it's open. And I don't think that's okay in my perspective.
I agree, and I think that's kind of the issue with religion is it's like if you do this and if XYZ, then you'll be fine. But I know a lot of people who are extremely religious, but they're really bad people to be around.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
do bad things. They treat people badly. And it's like, okay, you have to follow the entire word, the entire path. You have to embody that.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's we were talking about like how like each person kind of like embodies that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the set of guidelines or rules that someone has. It's like you got to follow them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a quote that I put the other day from Erick and Monico. He says, be a good man, not a nice man. It's because a good man's going to do... A nice man just kind of goes along with the flow because he just want to be cool with everybody. No, a good man knows that when it's something in his values, his roots, that he's just like, this is the line, like, I'm not doing more, I think that's the good man. Sometimes the good man looked like a bad man because he's not going with the agenda, I guess you could say.